His kiss, the guillotine, the ministry of humility, had cameras on every corner, sensors in every doorway. They measured heartbeats, tracked dilated pupils, detected the chemical signatures of desire. In the gray city of new penitence, love was the last crime. Officer Marin Volt had hunted 17 offenders in 3 years. She'd watched them dragged to the contrition centers, their memories scrubbed clean, their capacity for passion chemically neutered. She told herself it was mercy. The alternative, illegal emotion left unchecked led to chaos, to the pride that had nearly destroyed civilization. She told herself this as she watched him through the rain-streaked window of the underground cafe. His name was Kale, according to her files. No surname, he'd abandoned it, like he'd abandoned every law that kept society docile and safe. The dossier claimed he was 28, but his eyes looked older, dark, and fathomless beneath the hood of his jacket. He sat alone at a corner table, sketching in a leather-bound notebook that should have been confiscated years ago. Art implied ego. Ego bred pride. But it was his other crime that had brought her here. They called him the Severance. The rumors started 6 months ago in the lower districts. A man whose kiss could kill, who could separate soul from body with the press of his lips. Impossible, the ministry scientists said. But 12 bodies had been found, all wearing the same expression, rapturous, transcendent. Their hearts stopped mid-beat, their faces frozen in something that looked disturbingly like joy. Marin touched the compliance chip behind her ear, feeling its cold metal anchor her to duty. She'd volunteered for deep cover, had her own biosignals masked, so she could move through the underground without triggering alerts. She was the ministry's best hunter because she understood the criminals she pursued. She knew how they thought, how they justified their selfishness. She understood because once, before the chip, she had been one of them. The bell above the cafe door chimed as she entered. Kale didn't look up. His pencil moved across the page in swift, confident strokes. Another violation. Confidence was too close to pride. "This seat taken?" she asked. He glanced up, and for a moment, the world contracted to the space between them. His eyes were the color of smoke and steel, and they saw through her ministry haircut, her regulation clothes, the lie she carried in her pocket like a knife. "It is now," he said. She sat. Up close, she could see the details her surveillance hadn't captured. The faint scar along his jaw, the ink stains on his fingers, the way he held himself like a man who had already said goodbye to the world. "I'm Vive," she lied. "No, you're not." His voice was soft, almost gentle. "But I'll call you that if it makes you feel safer." Her hand moved instinctively toward the neural disruptor concealed in her jacket. He caught her wrist, not roughly, but with a certainty that stopped her breath. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "That's not how this works." "Then how does it work?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Unprofessional, curious, dangerous, he released her wrist and returned to his sketching. "You already know. That's why you're here. Ministry sent you to confirm if the rumors are true. Are they? What do you think?" He turned the notebook toward her. The sketch was of her. Not as she was now, but as she must have been before, eyes bright with feeling, lips curved in genuine laughter. Alive, in a way the compliance chip had taught her to forget. He'd drawn her like she was someone worth remembering. She felt something crack inside her chest, sharp and sweet as breaking glass. "How did you?" "Everyone carries their true face underneath," he said. "Most people just stop looking for it. The bodies," she whispered. "The people you killed, did they look for it?" For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Not quite pain, but its shadow. "I didn't kill them. They chose. Every single one chose to die, chose to feel." He leaned forward, and she caught his scent, rain and paper and something wilder, something the ministry had no name for. "Do you know what the kiss does? It doesn't destroy the soul. It frees it. For just a moment, before the body realizes it's dying, there's absolute clarity. Pure emotion, unfiltered by fear or duty, or whatever chip the ministry drilled into your skull. They felt everything they'd been denied their whole lives. Love, pride, desire, joy. And yes, it killed them. But they died whole. Marin's heart hammered against her ribs. The chip behind her ear pulsed a warning. Elevated stress levels, compromised objectivity, emotional contamination detected. She should arrest him now. Call for backup. Let the ministry scientists dissect whatever made him dangerous. Add his research to their archives on human weakness. "Insane," she said, but her voice shook. "Maybe." He closed the notebook, his movements deliberate. "Or maybe I'm the only sane one left. Tell me, officer, do you remember what it felt like before they made you forget?" The chip pulsed harder. Memory suppression protocols activating. But she was already falling through the cracks in her conditioning, tumbling towards something she'd been taught to fear more than death. She remembered a girl with flowers in her hair, a summer that tasted like freedom, a moment in the dark when someone had looked at her, the way Kale was looking at her now, like she was rare and wild and wholly herself. Then the ministry came, the contrition center, the chip, the systematic dismantling of everything that made her dangerous and alive. She couldn't finish. The words tangled in her throat, years of careful numbness, unraveling with each breath. "You don't have to decide now," Kale said quietly. He slid a card across the table, real paper, criminally organic. An address was written in the same hand that had drawn her true face. "But when you do, you know where to find me." He stood, leaving coins on the table for his coffee. As he passed her chair, he paused, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him through the cold cafe air. "What it's worth," he murmured. "I hope you choose yourself." Then he was gone, vanishing into the gray rain, and Marin was left alone with her coffee, her duty, and the sketch of a girl who no longer existed. She didn't go to the address that night, or the next. She filed her report, subject located, under surveillance, building case for arrest, and returned to her regulation apartment with its regulation furniture and its complete absence of anything beautiful. She lay awake, feeling the chip pulse its calm, chemical reassurance. But underneath it, something else was waking. A hunger she'd forgotten she possessed. On the third night, she went to the address. It was an abandoned textile factory in the industrial quarter, its windows dark and hollow. She should have brought backup. She should have activated her tracking beacon. She should have remembered she was a ministry officer first, and a woman second. Instead, she climbed the rusted stairs alone, following the faint glow of candlelight from the uppermost floor. He was waiting in a room full of forbidden things: books with broken spines, paintings that celebrated the human form, music boxes that played melodies designed to stir emotion. In the center of it all, Cale sat on the floor, surrounded by candles, looking like a priest at an altar to everything holy the ministry had tried to destroy. "You came," he said, not surprised, sad almost. "I should arrest you." But she didn't reach for her disruptor. "You should." He patted the floor beside him. "But you won't." She sat, leaving space between them that felt like the last border of her loyalty. "Why do you do it? If you know it kills them." "Because everyone deserves one true moment before the end. The ministry gives people 70, 80 years of half-life. I give them one instant of the real thing." He looked at her with those smoke and steel eyes. "Isn't a second of truth worth more than a lifetime of comfortable lies? They're dead, Cale. Truth doesn't matter if you're dead, doesn't it?" He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her face with ink-stained fingers, tracing the line of her jaw. The chips screamed warnings. Her heart screamed louder. "What are you, Marin Vold? What's left of you after they took everything that made you human?" She wanted to argue, to defend the ministry, the chip, the careful order that kept the world from tearing itself apart with passion and pride. But his hand on her face felt like an answer to a question she'd stopped asking years ago. "I don't want to die," she whispered. "No." His thumb brushed her cheekbone, impossibly gentle. "That's why I won't kiss you unless you ask." Room fell silent except for the guttering candles and her ragged breathing. Outside, the city hummed with its million small compliances, each citizen tucked safely into their prescribed numbness. She'd spent 3 years protecting that peace, hunting down anyone who threatened it with dangerous feeling, and she'd been so tired. "Tell me what it's like," she said. "The kiss, the severance. Tell me what they felt." Cale's hand dropped from her face, but he didn't look away. "Like falling and flying at once. Like every good thing you ever lost coming back in a single rush. Your first sunrise, your first love, the first time you created something beautiful and knew it was beautiful. Every tear you never got to cry, every laugh you swallowed, every moment you were told to be smaller, quieter, less, it all comes roaring back. And for that one perfect instant before the end, you're wholly, impossibly yourself. Then you die, then you're free." Marin thought of her 12 years in the ministry. The arrests, the memory wipes, the careful cultivation of emptiness. She thought of the girl with flowers in her hair, erased so thoroughly that only Cale's sketch proved she'd ever existed. She thought of all the years ahead, each one grayer than the last, until she became just another compliance officer, just another instrument of comfortable, suffocating peace. "Have a question," she said. "Yes, if I asked, if I chose this, would you remember me?" Her voice cracked. "After, would I matter enough to remember?" Something broke in his careful composure. He pulled her close, his forehead against hers, his breath warm on her lips. "I remember all of them. Every face, every name, every last moment. I carry them like stones, Marin, beautiful, terrible stones. If you do this, you'll be one more weight I'll drag through whatever life I have left. So yes, God, yes, I would remember you." She should have been afraid. Instead, she felt the strangest sense of peace. The chip in her skull pulsed frantically now, flooding her system with suppressants, trying to claw her back to numbness. But she was already too far gone, falling through the cracks toward something vast and terrifying and wholly her own. "Kiss me," she said. "Me," her hands fisted in his jacket. "I don't want to arrest you. I don't want to go back. I don't want another 40 years of this half-life. Kiss me and let me feel it all before I go. Please." He cupped her face in both hands, and she saw tears in his smoke and steel eyes. "You're sure?" She thought of the girl in his sketch. The girl she'd been. The girl she could be again, if only for a heartbeat, I'm sure. When his lips touched hers, the world exploded. It was gentler than she'd imagined, soft and searching, like a question posed in a language she'd forgotten. Then it deepened, and suddenly she was drowning in sensation. Not just the kiss, but everything. The smell of rain-soaked earth, the sound of her mother's laughter, the taste of strawberries stolen from a market stall, the girl with flowers in her hair, spinning in sunlight, saying "I love you" like it was a prayer and a revolution. She felt pride, not the destructive kind the ministry feared, but the quiet pride of being wholly herself. She felt desire, sharp and sweet as summer wine. She felt grief for everything she'd lost, and joy for this one perfect moment of having it back. She felt alive. Her heart stuttered. Once, twice. The world grew bright at the edges, too bright, burning away every shadow the ministry had filled her with. Cale's arms held her as her body forgot how to continue. She wasn't afraid. She was laughing, crying, free. "Thank you," she managed to whisper against his lips. "Thank you." Light swallowed her whole. Cale held her long after she stopped breathing. Her face wore that expression he knew too well, transcendent, joyful, finally at peace. He committed every detail to memory. The way her regulation jacket had fallen open, revealing a shirt the color of morning sky. The scattered freckles across her nose, the faint smile on her lips, one more stone to carry. He heard the sirens in the distance. The ministry would come, they always did eventually. He should run, disappear into the underground, by himself, another few months of freedom. Instead, he pulled out his notebook and began to sketch. Not her dead face, but her living one, the face she'd worn in those final moments, blazing with everything the ministry had tried to erase. He sketched quickly, capturing the curve of her joy, the fierce pride in her eyes, when the ministry burst through the door, weapons drawn. He was still drawing, hands up. "You're under arrest for—" "I know what I'm under arrest for," Cale said quietly. He set down his pencil and raised his ink-stained hands. "I'm ready." They dragged him out past Marin's body. He didn't look away. He never looked away as they hauled him toward the transport. He thought of all the faces he carried. Marin's just the latest in a collection of beautiful, terrible stones. The ministry would try to make him forget them. They'd scrub his mind, install their chips, teach him to be compliant and calm. But he'd remember. Even if it took him the rest of his life, even if they burned every sketch he'd ever made, he'd remember. Because someone had to bear witness. Someone had to carry the weight of these small, perfect rebellions. Someone had to remember that they'd chosen to be whole, even if only for a heartbeat, even if it killed them, especially then. The transport doors slammed shut. And through the reinforced glass, Cale watched the gray city roll past. Somewhere in its million careful compliances, someone else was waking up, questioning, feeling the edges of their cage. And when they came looking for freedom, for one true moment before the end, he'd be ready. He'd always be ready. Because in a world that demanded numbness, every kiss was revolution. And every revolution began with someone brave enough to feel.